Good afternoon, family and friends, and welcome to this very special occasion. I'm sure you will all agree what a beautiful day we have today for such a beautiful couple, on what will surely mark the start of the most amazing wedding day. So Chris and Becca would like to thank all of you for coming here today, but I know that some of you have travelled quite a wee bit just to be here. We have people from all the way up in Benbecula. Who's come from Benbecula? Oof, there we go. We've even let people in from all the way down in England. Where's the English? 1, 2, 3. Right, okay, keep an eye on those ones. Oh, just along the road in Ardrossan. Where are you? And everywhere in between, regardless of how near or far you've come. I'm pleased to welcome you all in celebrating today's wedding here in the beautiful Boclair house. So my name's Paul, and I'm a humanist marriage officer. Or as Chris has been referring to me, the guy who's doing it. I think we all know who planned this wedding, Becca, eh? But of course, technically you're not wrong. I am the guy who's doing it for you today, Chris. Yeah. Now, the humanist philosophy is simply one of unity, respect, freedom of choice, and celebrating the love that these two people have for one another. But this type of ceremony has also enabled today's happy couple to express some of their own feelings about one another in a way that is extremely personal to them. Today, this bride and groom embark on a brand new chapter in their lives. And it was clear to me from spending some time with you both that you're perfectly matched and you've been in love since the very moment you laid eyes on one another. Or have they? We'll come on to the love story in a wee minute of how you two met and how you got to this very spot today. However, when I met with you, I asked, what type of wedding ceremony are you looking for? And quite simply, you said, something that reflects their personalities, that tells that unique love story that brought us to this very spot. In fact, Chris, you said you wanted a ceremony that's just like your dad, Peter. Short and sweet. His words, no mine. Short and sweet, because you want to get the party started with all these beautiful people here today. So before we get the party started, a few special mentions. Firstly, to our beautiful bridesmaids. Can we have a wee round of applause? Now, I know this must have been tough dealing with Becca this morning. She's a stickler for timekeeping, but we managed to hold you off just to be fashionably late. That is a bride's prerogative, of course. And a special mention for our fabulously fantastic flower girl, Zara. Woo! It's meant to be these two who are the stars of the show, Zara, but I'm sure you got some fantastic photos. And on the subject of cute wee people, well, that brings us on to our best men and, of course, our groom's party. You've done a great job getting everyone in their seats. And, of course, making sure that Chris showed up so beautifully in his kilt. Doesn't he look fantastic? Should get the pins out more often, Chris. A wee word of caution. Did you know the wearing of a kilt in a modern wedding is symbolic of you no longer wearing the trousers in the relationship ahead?
He never has.
He never has. Oh, okay, we'll move on. Of course, in all seriousness, the biggest thank you goes to the family members of this happy couple. Parents, siblings, the people who have helped form these beautiful humans that stand in front of us today. We celebrate with you all. However, we do want to take a wee moment to remember those family who can't be here with us today. We've lit a candle in their memory, and those who are close to our hearts should be in your thoughts and in your stories today, and they too can play a special part in this wedding. Whether it's grandparents, any loved ones, but of course, in particular, we remember most recently your fur baby Max. Sorry. Didn't mean to make you cry there. You probably don't even realise this, but by simply being here today, each and every single one of you are playing such a special part in this couple's love story. So as we talk about love stories, and before we send you two off on that next chapter of your love story called marriage, it's only fair we have a quick recap of the previous chapter, of how you two met, how you fell in love, and how we got to this very spot today. And maybe we can fill in a few blanks for the parents. So Chris told me he was like a modern-day Prince Charming. He searched through all of the land for his Cinderella. Or more accurately, he searched through Tinder, didn't you, Chris? And boy, was he in luck. The big question, though, was it love at first swipe for these two? Well, Chris told me as soon as he saw Becca's profile picture, he knew instantly that this was the girl of his dreams. So, well, you done what's known as a super like, Chris. Not even just a swipe right, a super like. And for Becca, well, she told me this dating app was filled with more frogs than it was princes. But it was, as she scrolled through the dating app, being quite selective, of course, being 6 foot tall herself, Becca was on the lookout for someone tall and handsome. So when this beautiful man's face popped up, it was a swipe right straight away. You wasted no time in matching, you slid into one another's DMs. And of course, you would message back and forth. However, it would take around 6 whole months before these two would meet up in person. Now, unsure if this boy actually liked you, Becca, you waited to see if Chris would send you a happy birthday message. And of course, after receiving a text on 11:59 p.m. on your birthday, with 1 minute to spare, Chris sent a text saying, "Happy birthday, you filthy animal." So it didn't take long for you two to arrange your first date. Becca, you told me you were excited to meet this mystery man, Chris, 6'5" from Tinder in person. No far off, Chris, no far off, a wee embellishment.
Oh, cheers, mate.
And, of course, Becca suggested that Chris come and pick her up for the date. However, Chris revealed he doesn't drive. And Becca would be the one chauffeuring this man around for the rest of her life. So you went to collect him at the train station, and knowing that the world of internet dating can be filled with weird and wonderful characters, it was Chris who was now getting a wee bit nervous. As he stood there at the train station waiting for Becca to collect him, a big, beige, masculine 4x4 approached him slowly. Chris began to fear the worst of who he was actually meeting. Chris, this is exactly how every single serial killer documentary starts. But for you two, it was the start of a beautiful love story. And as the window of the beige Hyundai rolled down, Chris breathed a sigh of relief as she was even more gorgeous in person. So on this first date, Becca, you were introduced to Christopher's competitive side, as he suggested you go and play crazy golf and bowling. Now, Becca, you were badly beaten at both games, and Chris couldn't figure out why you went in such a huff. After all, Chris told me you did say you wanted smashed on this date, but I don't think she meant bowling, Chris. So as the date came to an end, Chris tried to redeem himself and asked Becca if she'd like to go out for some food. However, she insisted she was going up the road. She wasn't interested. So unsure if you'd actually made a good impression, Chris, as you sat there in the car on the way home, well, you told me you spent ages chatting, but for you two, it simply felt like minutes. In fact, you said it felt like you'd known one another your whole lives. So, of course, it was here in the car that Becca pulled out the smoothest of chat-up lines, saying, "I'll beat you next time at bowling." So Chris knew there was going to be a second date. And, of course, on your next date, you decided to go to the cinema. Well, Chris knew this was a perfect opportunity, the dark and private surroundings. They could get to know one another better. And, of course, only for Chris to fall asleep during the movie, Becca looking over at him, seeing him slavering and snoring, maybe not the most romantic of settings. So on the way back to the train station that night, being dropped off by Becca once again, Chris decided to make a move. He leaned in, he closed his eyes, he puckered his lips, and he edged towards Becca. Only for Becca to say, "Right, that's you at the station, see you later, out you get." She doesn't do public displays of affection. So, of course, as we know, Chris would disappear off into the distance on holiday to Thailand. And despite the distance between you, things still went from strength to strength. And it was one night, whilst absolutely steaming in Thailand, Chris called this girl and he made his feelings clear. Becca, you were already clearly head over heels. And as soon as his plane hit the tarmac in Glasgow, well, you were keen to see this boy once more. Becca jumped right in the Hyundai and raced down the A78 towards Ardrossan to see you. And let's just say, well, Becca hoped it wasn't just the speed cameras giving her a wee flash that night. You were kindly given an opportunity to go to your sister's house, Chris, to get to know one another better. And of course, it was here in your sister's house that you two would share your very first kiss, right there on the couch. Pretty awkward for your sister who was sat on the other sofa, mind. But it was clear that you two were now falling head over heels for one another, and you were soon introduced to one another's family. Becca's mum, Lorraine, was over the moon that she'd actually brought a boy back home. Up until this point, Lorraine, you actually didn't even know she was into boys, which was interesting. But of course, it didn't take long for them to make their feelings clear for one another. And they were soon saying those three little words. Do you remember who said the L word first, Chris? Me. It was you, of course. And 7 seconds after Chris dropped the L bomb, Becca updated her Facebook status to end a relationship, and the rest, as they say, is history for you two. Now, you would take every opportunity to see one another. Both staying with parents at the time, they would stay over at one another's place. But of course, Chris, you would start to come over to Becca's, and soon the overnight bag became a wee drawer full of clothes. One by one, your things started to appear, and when the framed photo of Henrik Larsson was there in the bedroom, that's when this guy had moved all of his things in. So you two made the brave decision to officially move in together as a couple. And it was living together, they soon realised they're not just boyfriend and girlfriend, they soon became best friends. And of course, since moving in together, they tell me they're like an old married couple already. One is always on time for things, the other fashionably late. Runs in the family, I see. One does all of the cooking, the other one's maybe better at doing the dishes. One is neat, clean and tidy, and the other is Becca. Yeah. And of course, Chris, you told me how you're the yin and the yang, the chalk and the cheese, the perfect match. You're super relaxed, chilled out, you never moan about anything, whereas Becca's a wee bit more temperamental. Oh, sorry, you said Becca has a temper and is mental. And of course, as we know, the pandemic would mean many young couples would face the prospect of having some challenging times together. Becca, you were out saving the world, working in care. Chris, you also found it a challenge working your way through many beers and Celtic reruns on TV. But living together, you had some amazing adventures. And as we know, your biggest adventure yet, you introduced your beautiful daughter to the world. And who knows, there may be even more additions to the family in the years to come. What is certain for you two, you clearly already have the perfect family. And you love spending your lives together. Now, you two have had so much fun on your journey so far. You've travelled to amazing places together. From getting tanned in Turkey, puckering up in Poland, smooching in Stuttgart, cuddling up the top of Conic Hill, or even snuggled up on your sister's sofa. Regardless of where in the world you two are, together is your favourite place to be. Every adventure these two have had has been spent collecting everlasting memories. But one memory after the wee one coming along, of course, that's more special, is the day that Chris proposed. You see, Chris told me he knew from the very beginning, the very moment that he laid eyes on Becca, that she was the one. So he always knew he was going to spend the rest of his life with her. So he secretly put his plan to propose into place. Now, when I say secretly plan, well, they had spoken about getting married, and Becca dragged him past every jewellery store window in town. In fact, you even went in and picked the exact ring that you wanted, Becca. So you knew the question was going to come one day, you just didn't know where or when this might happen. So, of course, after informing this man of the ring you liked and getting the green light from Rab, Chris was away with work, so arranging for the ring to be collected, all Chris had to do now was choose the perfect place to pop the question. Now, Chris, you were working away in Hartlepool, so you coordinated with Lorraine and Rab to get Becca to the romantic surroundings of the Edinburgh Christmas markets. This is where you would get the train directly from Hartlepool, jump off the train and surprise her. So as Becca walked round the Christmas markets with Mum and Dad, Chris arrived in Edinburgh. He headed to the spot to put his plan into place, only to discover Becca was at the wrong Christmas market. You were at two totally different places. So, after being told where they were, Chris raced along Princes Street in a scene reminiscent of the opening credits from Trainspotting. And as you got there, your heart was pounding even more than it should have been, Chris. You looked down into the markets, and there she was in the distance. As Becca stood there soaking up the stunning Scottish scenery, the brilliantly breathtaking view of the castle behind her, the scent of cinnamon in the air, the romantically lit Christmas lights all around. But one sight was more beautiful than all. As she turned around, she saw Chris running towards her down the hill, and a look of confusion washed across her face. "What are you doing here?" Becca asked, and Chris handed her a note to read. As she read the note, Chris gave her a cuddle, and of course Lorraine slipped the ring into his hand. And it was at this moment that all suddenly became clear. Becca saw the man of her dreams go down on one knee with that ring in his hand. And of course, regardless of where or when that question was ever going to be asked, the answer was always going to be yes. And so that brings us to this very moment today. You said yes. And for you two, marriage means so much more than sharing a surname. It means sharing in the challenges that life will face you with. It's never been too old to hold hands. It's standing together and facing the world. It's remembering to say, I love you every single day. Because, Chris, as long as you have each other, you'll never walk alone. He asked me to put that in there, by the way. That's to counterbalance that sign you got from Becca, better together. And of course, as you two walk together into the distance, into marriage, well, before they take their vows to one another, the couple have chosen to symbolise today's wedding with an ancient Scottish tradition of a hand fasting. So if you've ever wondered where the term tying the knot comes from, you're about to find out. Right, you two, if you'd like to put your right hand one on top of the other. And interestingly, the one who puts her hand on top feels that they're the boss in the relationship. Okay. So historically, a handfast would consist of one piece of tartan, symbolising that a bride is entering into a groom's clan in marriage. However, of course, in more modern times, any two people can fall in love and marry in Scotland. Therefore, both will be represented with their own fabrics today. So we have both of your tartans. We'll give them just this once, won't we? Both of your tartans, clearly symbolic of your heritage. But firstly, we lay your hands with Chris's tartan. Chris, this represents the strength and foundations that come with your family name. Represent you as an individual, as a husband, and of course, as a father in the household. But as we lay on top of your tartan, the Macintosh tartan, this represents not only the foundations of your family, the role models that have created this strong and independent women that stand in front of us, but also represent you both as the colourful personalities that you both are in the relationship. But it's not just two people entering into marriage. It's not just two families blending together as one. There is one little person that will bind you together forever. And of course, we represent Zara with her own chosen fabric, the pink ribbon. So as we tie this knot, we seal it with the love that your family and friends have for you as a couple. It's a bond that ties, but doesn't bind. What it symbolises is together, you're stronger than you are individually. So just like these fabrics, they came here separately today and are now leaving forever intertwined as one. So I'm now going to ask you, as you will in marriage, to hold on tight, don't let go, and after 3, you're going to slide your right hand apart and tie the knot. In 1, 2, 3, pull. There you go, you've literally tied the knot. A wee round of applause. Hold it up so the photographer can get a wee shot. English folk, Scotland flag. Scotland flag, there we go. Love it. Right, you two, now we've had that piece of fun. We've come to the part where you will take your vows to one another. And before they take their legal vows, the couple have chosen to write personal vows, which they'd like to share in front of you all today. So, Becca, you're going to go first.
We ready? Chris, there's no way I could possibly stand up here and put into words just how much I love you. So I'll say this. Standing here today, I'm so excited to see what the future holds for us. Who would have thought a super life for your family would be here 6 years later? You've given me so much joy, love and happiness throughout the years. I'm so thankful for each day of my life, even on the days I want to strangle you. As we stand here and make these vows today, I promise to continue being your thunderbird during the storms, your sounding board for when you need to offload, timekeeper for when you're too relaxed to get out the door on time, and your sous chef in the kitchen, even if I'm the better cook. Today marks the first day of bringing our little family with Zara together as I take your last name. This is just the start of our incredible journey together. Stop it. I can't wait to see where life takes us from here.
Right, Chris, top that.
Becca, I'll be there to support you in all that you do. I promise to be the best man I can possibly be to you and the best father I can possibly be to Zara. I love your many good qualities. You're hardworking, you're funny, very sassy, clever and loyal. You're also stunning to me all the time. She says, you're always with my back, and I'll always have yours. Sorry. I feel like together we can overcome any obstacles that life throws at us. I love how at ease we are together. I was asked if I was nervous before today, and honestly, I haven't been one bit, but I think it's because I know I'm at the right place at the right time, and that I've found my person, the person who makes me complete. Anytime I feel down or question myself, it's you that picks me up. It's you that makes me feel like I can do anything. You always support me. So you're my best friend, and you're the reason I feel alive. So there's always this space in my heart until you.
Okay, let's get the legal part done. So if we can have our handsome ring bearer come forward with the rings, please. All right, Drew will do then, Drew will do. Okay, just in the middle, Drew. And if you present the rings to the happy couple, if you could take your partner's ring in your hand, please. And you can have a seat, Drew. Thanks. A wee round of applause for Drew. Is that a boo there? Someone boo him?
Someone boo.
Okay, so as per the personal vows, it's going to be ladies first. So if you could take Christopher's left hand, hover the ring over the ring finger, look into his eyes, and repeat after me.
We'll try.
In the presence of our family and friends.
In the presence of our family and friends.
I, Rebecca Margaret McIntosh.
I, Rebecca Margaret McIntosh.
Accept you, Christopher John Robertson.
Accept you, Christopher John Robertson.
In marriage as my lawfully wedded husband.
In marriage as my lawfully wedded husband.
In sickness and in health.
In sickness and in health.
In good times and in bad.
In good times and in bad.
I will love and cherish you for the rest of my life.
I will love and cherish you for the rest of my life.
Perfect. Place the ring on Chris's finger. Perfect fit. Chris, now for you. Take Becca's left hand. Just take one wee step back. Becca, you take one wee step forward. Look into Becca's eyes and repeat after me. In the presence of our family and friends.
In the presence of our family and friends.
I, Christopher John Robertson.
I, Christopher John Robertson.
Accept you, Rebecca Margaret McIntosh.
Accept you, Rebecca Margaret McIntosh.
In marriage as my lawfully wedded wife.
In marriage as my lawfully wedded wife.
In sickness and in health.
In sickness and in health.
In good times and in bad.
And in good times and in bad.
I will love and cherish you for the rest of my life.
I will love and cherish you for the rest of my life.
Perfect. Place the ring on Becca's finger. Christopher and Rebecca, you've chosen to pledge your love, respect and commitment to one another. You two have made a promise to stand by each other throughout your entire life. So I now have the most pleasant duty of officially announcing you, Chris and Becca, husband and wife. You may now kiss the bride. Woohoo!
I did?
You just kiss again then, go on. Your mum didn't see it. Well done, Chris. Okay, we're now going to make it super duper official. We'll sign the legal document. So if we can have our two witnesses come forward, everyone else stay seated, relax for a few minutes, and we'll be back. Friends and family, if I can have your attention for one more minute, so you'll be glad to know there's not much more for me to say. The happy couple are going to make their way back up the aisle, and after they do so, they ask you all to join them outside for the most epic group shot you've ever seen at Boclair. Once we've captured that, then we can come inside and get the party started with some celebratory drinks. So before all you go off and get the party started with some drinks, well, these two have decided to celebrate their first steps into marriage with a drinking from the quaich. So for those of you unfamiliar with the quaich, this is a Scottish tradition where a small silver cup, often referred to as a loving cup, will be shared with the couple. And it always has two handles, not just symbolising the two partners entering into marriage, but the two families blending together as one. So this is a quaich that you guys have bought specifically for today and being engraved with your special day. So I'm going to ask Chris if you can hold on to the quaich. And traditionally a couple would share a fine Scotch whisky from the quaich. However, not being huge fans of whisky, instead they've chosen a drink personal to themselves, where the proposal happened, an Edinburgh gin. Very poignant, lovely. So this is obviously coloured, so I'm going to ask if you could do the honours of pouring with that beautiful white dress. Yeah, if you pour into the quaich for me. Lovely stuff, thank you. Although this is a Scottish wedding and that looks like a very small cup, Chris, I'm not going to lie. So why don't we just upgrade that for something a wee bit larger? If you could pour that in there for me. Perfect. And this, of course, is a Scottish wedding.
Oh, Jesus.
That's more like it. Okay, Chris, you're going to take a sip from the quaich first. And as you take a sip from the quaich, you promise to share all that your lives may bring together. Leave some for Becca. And Becca, before you take a sip from the quaich, please know that life will be all the sweeter now that you've shared from the loving cup with Chris today. So as we say here in Scotland, down it. Slanjava! Yay! Woo! Look at that. Okay, for this final announcement, can we have everyone on their feet, please? Oh, bridal flowers.
That's Becca's.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Get ready to raise the roof with as much clapping, whooping, cheering. We want to hear it all the way across Scotland. The final thing for me to say, I'm so proud to present for the very first time, the new Mr. and Mrs. Robertson!